Shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Harakakadash. The one is the apostles and elders of the great most High that rule well. And Shalom to the brothers in the way, considering truth. Um, yeah, you know, got this article where they got the numbers from like inflation, kind of looking at year on year, and it's something where if you've been going to the shops over here in the UK, inflation's been running rampant. It's funny because there's a clip of what's his name, like during, I think it was what, I can't remember when, maybe like 2020 2021, something like that, of Boris like being asked on radio like how much a Greg sausage roll costs, and he says like 1.95 and then the actual price is £1. And then they were saying like, oh yeah, he didn't know. But it's funny because now it's like someone sent me a price of like a sausage roll in these Greggs, and it was like 1.45, and that's gone up from like 1.10, 1.20. It's basically been climbing. It's like most things now in like now pretty much everything food wise has been going up. Fuel prices, like, they skyrocketed, but they kind of stabilized, but they're still up. Um, energy bills are going to be the most like savage, because those, until I think end of this month, what's it, February, or maybe next month, they're up enough to where they're still being like still receiving government aid to cover it. But what, as far as anyway, they're still fucked. Like, they're still fucked. There's still a madness. Like, energy bills, they're still insane. Like, most people aren't unable to what do you call it? Like, to afford to use energy how they used to. Where now it's been cold. There's been some days where it's like -2, -3 at night, and then there's people where they can't even put the heating on, because they put the heating on, that's like a meal disappearing from them the next day. Cost wise, and electricity and these things. As the conflict's not going anywhere in um what do you call it? The hell is this place called, man? In Russia and Ukraine, and as far as with China as well. When some as it heats up, you're gonna have a bunch of things just vanish and disappear from from the market, and then it's gonna get peak. It's gonna get peak. It's gonna get it's gonna get worse, because as far as now, it's meant to be getting under wraps. That ain't happening. It says what, inflation rose in January by 0.5%. Well, let me just read the title. It says inflation rose in January 0.5%, more than expected, and up 6.4% from a year ago. It says what, across the board, increases in shelter, food, and energy boosted the index after inflation. Yeah, there was an article I saw earlier today where it was talking about how a lot of people, bunch of people have moved out of like London because the rent's too high, and they're just done. Especially with how people are working from home, a lot of people are just shipping out, and hey, pretty much everything's prices are going up. Yeah, it says what? Across the board, increases in shelter, food, and energy boosted the index after inflation had shown signs of receding in recent months. Supercore services inflation, which is key for the Fed and excludes food, energy, and shelter, rose 0.2% for the month and was 4% higher than a year ago. So yeah, it's a thing as well. It's like once spring kicks in, it's especially over here in the UK, it's gonna get peak, because then it's just gonna be it's gonna be completely raw. It says what, the consumer price index, which, okay, So inflation turned higher to start 2023 as rising shelter, gas, and fuel prices took their toll on consumers. The Labor Department reported Tuesday the Consumer Price Index, which is a measure of broad basket of common goods and services, rose 0.5% in January, which translated to an annual gain of 6.4, sorry. Economists surveyed by Dow Jones have been looking for respective increases of 0.4 and 6.2%. So yeah, excluding volatile food and energy, the core CPI increased 0.4% monthly and 5.6% for a month ago, against respective estimates. So yeah, it's going up higher than expected. And the thing is, anyways, what made it go insane in the first place was what? Energy and various foods, and it all stemmed from the war with Russia. So as that situation worsens, it can easily spiral again. And then it might be summertime. It might be closer to springtime because now it's getting close to spring. So it's not going to be as fucked. Even though over here it's like most places, it's still going to be cold. I had a girl I work with that said she went to Spain, and it was like fucking -2 degrees or some shit. It was minus no, it was 5. It was 5 degrees in Spain, and Spain's meant to be, that warm climate, that sunny, pleasant climate that people go to, because they want to break with some good weather. They want to get away from the rain and the perpetual grey, that is London, that is the UK. So yeah, food and energy is fucking hell. Yeah, it went up. It said over like fucking like 9%, 8-9%. Yeah. Says markets were volatile following the release, with the Dow Jones down 200 points at the open and heading lower. Rising shelter costs accounted for about half the monthly increase. The Bureau of Labor Statistics said in a report the component accounts for more than 1/3 of the index, rose 0.7% on the month, and was up 7.9% from the year. That's kind of funny still. It's, having a place to stay. And it's peak, because like if you're losing a place to stay, especially if you got a family, bro, people are gonna start doing a madness. And it's that's when things get that's when things start getting irate. People start getting mad. So it says what energy was up was also a significant contributor, up 2% just in January. That's kind of wild, and 8.7% respectively, whilst food was up 0.5 and 10% respectively. So food and energy, those are the key things, and those are the things you can't avoid, especially in the US, where driving, there's people where they can't even get to a job if they can't drive, and the public transport systems in a lot of cities are fucking not even usable. In somewhere like in the UK, you can kind of you can really use public transport. There's people that they can live in like Manchester and then take train in the morning, like back and forth every day, like morning and evening, like consistently, and it will be like an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes something on like the high speed trains, because they got the like super fast ones. But in the US, ain't even size wise, it's completely different to the UK. The UK is fucking small. And then what? You're gonna be driving. That's gonna be burning the wallet. It's like if you're not even making enough money to where it justifies the fuel costs and whatnot to get there, then you can't even work. And then you have to go on unemployment or something. But then even then, it's like you can only do that for a certain amount of time, then you gotta do something. So it's peak. It's like people are gonna feel the what do you call it? The burn. It says what rising prices meant a loss in real pay for workers. Average hourly earnings fell 0.2% for the month, and were down 1.8% from a year ago. Yeah, and that's kind of what, because over here, In the UK, we had like non-stop strikes. Because why? Because people's money ain't going as far. They've basically been what? They'll getting paid, like the pay might be the same, it might go up like 0.5 or 1% or whatever, but then like they said, inflation went up like fucking what, 8% on food, 10% on what was it, 10% on no, it was 8% on energy, 10% on food, and then like 7 something percent on housing. These core things that you can't even avoid, that's what you got to pay. That money's disintegrating. And that's why, especially, it's like over here, people have had pay freezes, civil sector for time. So, now they're losing it. So, yeah, it's with these things, this is what causes that, people to, start agitating. Because why? Because it's basically hitting a point where it's going to be a madness. Read this, Matthew 24 and 21. It says, "For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened." Yeah, these days aren't shortened. There's no flesh left to be saved. Everything's basically, it's circling the drain. It's swirling around the toilet bowl to where it's then going to drop out and there's going to be nothing left. And that's what we're in the midst of, and that's what people are getting the vibe of. This is why everyone's kind of like feeling like, oh, this feels strange. This feels odd. Like, this isn't quite like, it doesn't seem like everything's going to roll back. Seems like in all facets and manners, there's nothing left. There's no hope. And then they're just like, damn, what's up with that? And then it's crisis on crisis, man. You had like, I think 2 days ago, you had a guy like mounting the pavement and running people over. I think he killed 3 people, injured 5. Then that same, I think like hours later, you had like a shooting where like 5 people got killed. Then you had another incident. It's back to back. Like, America's being blighted. That's why I said, everything's basically gonna hit that crisis point to where what? It's all gonna it's gonna be too much. And really, in the midst of that, what? The elites are attempting to utilize that to bring about their desires. But this is something for Yahweh Hashem Yahshai to bring about his desires. 2 Ezra 16 and 17, it says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death. And yeah, they like people dying. It's always like remember when austerity started, like way back after the 2008 financial crisis. It really hit like 2009, 10 over here. They're saying like those old people dying because why, their pension wasn't enough to pay for like energy and keep like for heating and keeping the electric on and being able to eat. So they were just sitting there in the cold and just, fall asleep and fucking give up the ghost. They'll be toast. So yeah, that's, these, as far as what? Sorrows, great mournings in the midst, because it's again that time where plagues are hitting. The beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear. Yeah, them wars. That conflict in Ukraine ain't going anywhere. So everyone's like, now it's what? It's basically escalated up to where, you had the volunteers going over initially, and then they said, okay, we're just going to provide aid and supplies and whatever. And then what they've provided has scaled further and further to where now it's what? Tanks. And then they're looking for what? F-16s, planes and whatnot. Then what else are they going to do? They're going to say, oh, come and enforce a no-fly zone, or come and enforce. They're essentially drawing them in further and further. Then before you know it, we're in the midst. And the powers shall stand in fear. the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? And that's what a lot of people don't meditate on. They're not thinking like, damn, hold on, this could hit. Like, this could really be that crisis. They're thinking, nah, everything's gonna be fine. People are acting crazy, thinking it's gonna worsen. But what? They forget about what happened at the start of 2020 when C19 came in, and then it was, it's really nothing. But then through something that light, they're able to basically have it where you're locked down in your house, for you to go out and and play in some fucking a field of lavender. You're gonna get police coming in, they're headlocking you and finding you. There's women getting fined like fucking £300 for going to take a walk. That's what they were able to pull off the back of that. So the precedent's been set. So that can be easily reinforced or something worse. And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for an establishment of a different method of rule, different system based on that implantable microchip. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. But for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. And yeah, they've not turned from their wickedness, they're not being mindful. Because everyone's continued and become more emboldened in it. As these things occur, they're not meditating and thinking, damn, maybe there's something going on wrong. What went down in Syria and Turkey is saying, I read something today saying estimates are looking like they could hit 55,000 people dead, which is kind of nuts. And apparently I saw something saying that in Turkey the building regulations had been basically been getting skirted for a while, and that if you donated to the government, then you'd be able to build cheaper buildings. Like, that's why so many of the buildings just fucking fell like pancakes, like fucking dominoes, man. Like a Jenga tower, like a they just completely folded. And it says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case, and even then shall evils grow up on the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. I remember when things, were comparable to now, were dirt cheap. There was that time where it was saying it's the best economy ever. I think when Trump was still in, saying, yeah, it's the greatest economy ever. People are just able to make money easy. Even when the lockdowns kicked in, there was all that free money flying around. Everyone was just like, this is great. We were talking to people where it was like, they were saying, yeah, we're going to pay the cost of this. And now it's being felt. Everything's inflated to Ross. Everything's prices are going up. Pay ain't going nowhere. It's all kinds of fucked. But that's why, now's the time for these things to go on. And that's what we're in the midst of. We can, it's not eased up. We're, in the next year's rolled in, and everything's, it's all dug in its heels. That's why it's the hopeful year. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom. Shalom.